Why? Because we had those who came into power failing to realize that occupying power is not for self-empowerment or self-entitlement. Title is not for the self, but for others. We have not done things for others, but for ourselves, which has been the biggest problem on the African continent. That when leaders assume positions of responsibility, they forget that the primary objective is service and sacrifice. And they begin to think about themselves, building a parasitic elite that is focusing on self-aggrandizement at the expense of the populace. That is what we need to cure. And this is where our mandate is. This is where our mission is, to make sure that the liberation agenda that has been checked halfway is fulfilled. I have a lot of respect of Robert Mugabe the Young, though I do not have any respect of Robert Mugabe the Old, because he betrayed the ideals of Robert Mugabe the Young, who was a liberation icon. The Old was a person who betrayed what he stood for when he was young. I suppose there's something wrong with age, but I don't think so. Age comes with wisdom, but with Mr. Mugabe it came alone. And these are the things we want to make sure we are able to deal with, particularly for our leaders on the African continent. And this is why I'm saying, as a young man who is an advocate, who is an African, who is a Democrat, who is a believer in constitutionalism, who is a believer in the rule of law, who is a believer in vision, everything in Africa rises or falls with leadership. Once we get our leadership right, we get everything right. The shortage in Africa is not a shortage of resources, but a shortage of leadership, which is manifesting itself in a shortage of many other things. When you see disease in Africa, you are not seeing disease, you are seeing a death of leadership. That is the first thing we have to cure. How do we cure it? We cure it by making sure that we put Zimbabwe on the path to a free and fair election. How do we achieve a free and fair election? We have put certain benchmarks to achieve that free and fair election, so that we are able, when we go to an election, to allow Zimbabweans to define themselves, so that we go back to the ideal of the liberation struggle. One man, one woman, one vote. Let the people decide. Let the people choose their leaders. In Africa, our tragedy has been the tragedy of self-reproduction. People coming to tell us that they are new, when we know that they're sterile and finished in terms of the narrative that they are giving. And that is where we want to take our country back to. And this is where we are going to correct, to say in terms of reforms, let us have reforms for free and fair elections. We have